Hey guys, Tropicat212 here. Welcome to today's video where we'll be going over my top 5 favorite original species. But before we start, I should probably explain what exactly an original species is. An original species is a completely made up species created by a person or multiple people, it really depends. These species can be based off of real animals or not, though generally you're going to get inspiration from something, so it does typically end up being based off of multiple animals and maybe a plant or object or two. Anyways, back to what I was saying. Original species are, like I said, completely made up. Often these species will have set rules and a ton of lore behind them. Some of these original species may be open species, semi-open species, closed species, or species specifically meant for ARPG/RPG. Open species means that the species is open for anyone to make. Note, this does not mean you can disrespect any rules the creator may have set in place. For example, up until recently, Dutch angel dragons created by Eno89777 were open species, and the only rule was that your Dutchie could not have a muzzle ring to keep telephone looking as unique as possible. The muzzle ring rule was recently discontinued as Eno acknowledged that telephone would always be a special character, even if others had a muzzle ring too. Semi-open species are complicated to explain since they can have multiple definitions, so I'll do my best to simplify it. Semi-open species can be defined as semi-open because they have more detailed rules than open species, such as limiting traits that you can have on a single character, limiting the amount of that species that a single person can have, limiting the ability for anyone who isn't the creator to make adopts of their species, design approval from the creator, and registration. I'll explain what I mean for each of these. Let's start with limiting traits and use the original species known as Vukan to demonstrate. When Vukan were being launched, the creator hosted a quote-unquote make-your-own or MYO event. We were allowed to create a Vukan of our own for free, and for the duration of the event, we could use as many traits up to the uncommon rarity as we wanted for free. This was no longer an option after the event ended. This was a simple example of how a creator can limit traits. Next up is limiting the amount of that species a single person can own. This is like Lyoden's rule of only 2 accounts per person. It's pretty self-explanatory too. The creator has decided that you can't own an unlimited amount of their original species. I highly suggest not to try and get around this rule, as it can result in you permanently being banned from owning any of that species at all. The next point I want to delve into is limiting the ability for anyone who isn't the creator to make adopts of their species. All this means is that the creator is limiting who, other than themselves, can make and give away and or sell adopts of the creator's original species. Some creators don't allow anyone other than themselves to make adopts of their species, while others allow certain friends and trusted people to make adopts. Molly says hello. Creators may also say that anyone can make adopts as long as they follow the species guidelines. Design approval from the creator is also pretty self-explanatory. It just means that before you finalize a design that you made for your character of an original species, the design has to be approved by the creator. The creator may enforce this rule to make sure no one's getting around design rules, is following specific code patterns, or whatever else they want to enforce the rule for. An example would be, again, Vukan. My Vukan Half Moon needed to be approved before I could officially call him a Vukan. Molly still says hello. Lastly, registration. Registration isn't as complicated as it sounds. Think about when you have a purebred border collie you want to enter into the AKC, that stands for American Kennel Club. Before you can just show up and compete, you must register your collie and get their papers all sorted. The same concept is applied to original species registration. When you register your character of an original species, you're adding it to a registry, aka a list, which contains all the approved characters of that species. Registration is generally an easy way for the creator of the original species to keep track of all the created designs that are owned by people. Now we can move on to closed species. Closed species are original species that are closed to the public, meaning you are not allowed to and cannot make your own. An example will be primogens. Primogens are the more robotic version of protogens, as far as I understand anyways. Primogens cannot be made by the public. The creators sometimes auction off primogen designs that you can buy if you win the auction, and that primogen is already approved. When you win a primogen auction, the primogen is yours and you're allowed to use the character, though that does not mean you can change its design and traits unless the creator has given you permission to do so. Closed species often have the most intricate set of rules and are usually the most restricted in terms of designs if you get permission to design one. Alright, now we can move on to my top 5 favorite original species. Let's get started. Number 5. Vukan. Vukan is a closed species created by the DeviantArt user KJ from Colors. Vukan were one of the first original species ARPGs I got into. One of the reasons I really like them is because KJ made it a lore-filled yet simple and easy to understand species. Vukan feature a lot of different traits that are sorted by rarity. Original species with traits always pique my interest, as you can often unlock the traits with the more time you spend building up the story for your character, giving you a reason to stay and work with these creatures. Number 4. Primogen. Primogen are a closed species created by the fur affinity user Malus risu. These creatures are often described as the more robotic protogen. They feature more dinosaur features than their smaller counterparts, such as raptor claws and an overall raptor-like appearance including stance. I prefer Primogen over protogen due to the 4 robotic ears and longer, boxier visor. To me, they're more aesthetically appealing. Also, those tails! I'm a sucker for big, fluffy tails, if you can't tell by my human OC Winter. Her tail is nearly as long as she is and probably takes up half of her body mass. Number 3. Dracostrix. Dracostrix are a closed species of dragons that are primarily based on birds and dinosaurs, created by the DeviantArt user Carnivale Art, though the group is currently owned by Dizzy Mountaineer. Dracostrix are an ARPG species that live in the world of Lyvera. These creatures have a ton of lore and unique varieties that you can own. To obtain one, you get them from the adoption center known as the Lackadaisy Loft. Dracos can come in different varieties, as I mentioned, that are divided into 4 categories: avians, chiros, runners, and microstrix. Avian varieties going from largest to smallest include Griff, Harpia, Corva, Tyto, and Hawk. Chiro varieties, again going from largest to smallest, include Lichen and Chiro. Runner varieties and microstrix varieties aren't labeled, but they have multiple types. I've always loved dragons, and I love birds too, as well as the thought of flying, so having rideable dragons that are as unique as Dracostrix is like a dream come true. Number 2. Manokits. Manokits are an open species originally created by Dubmutt, though the fandom currently owns them since Dubmutt left the fandom. I don't know what it is about them that really draws me in, but they're just absolutely incredible. Maybe it goes back to the whole raptor looking build. The way they walk and stand is reminiscent of the extinct reptiles. Manokits have a shark fin on their spine as well as a fluffy shark tail. Manokits actually very rarely open their eyes, which gives them the kawaii type vibe since their eyes are always squinted shut. I think one of the reasons I fell in love with Manokits so quickly was because the first suit of a Manokit I saw was Eventide, I'm not sure how to say it, suit created by Spirit Panda at Furry Weekend Atlanta 2019. Bright colors mixed in with the soothing ocean blues immediately caught my attention, and Eventide was very friendly and patient when I asked for a photo. Overall, Manokits are a great species with a unique look that's instantaneously recognizable. Number 1. Dakota. Dakotas are an independent, rideable ARPG species created by the DeviantArt users Nobel and Anali, though the group is currently owned by APAC. Dakotas are best described to look like wolf bear creatures. They can only have natural colored coats, and any mutations you can get are real-life mutations, such as Roman nose. One of the reasons I really like this species is because you're given a lot of freedom on what you can do with your Dakotas, whether it be join a faction or faction points, join in quest, get HP points, aka hierarchy points, to help level up your Dakota all the way from submissive to alpha, draw or write hunting, caving, diving, or exploring, as well as holiday prompts, lore building, and so much more. All the admin are extremely helpful and responsive, keeping the group active and fun. Dakotas stand out as unique because a lot of original species can have crazy neon colors, but Dakotas stick to real patterns and colors, such as Vitiligo piebald, tawny coats, main links including Sphinx, Natural, Yeti, and many more. Other coat markings include Merrill, star marks, and a lot of others. Dakotas are one of the original species that is not only closed, but also needs to be registered and have admin approval. It's strict at first when you're designing your Dakota, but once it's been approved, everything calms down and you'll have a blast. I currently own 3 Dakotas: Aspen, Mocha Latte, and Smoke Whisper. Over time, I hope to get more Dakotas with different main links and traits. Dakotas are a wonderful species as they can help you not only develop art skills, but also writing and design skills. I think that about covers everything for today's video. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully you saw at least one new species you haven't heard of before. That's my hope, at least. Remember to swing by that like button if you enjoyed and subscribe for more content. Bye!